Hello, Scream Demons, and welcome to the Screams from the Basement podcast with Sam and Casey.
This is a horror podcast in which two horror fans discuss all things horror, including news, recent watches, horror collectibles, and more.
Hey, we're going to talk about a lot of and more on this episode. I am one of your co-hosts. I am Casey.
And I'm Sam.
And
let's get
screaming. Sam, how the heck are you?
Doing good, man. We have a busy week this week. And I mean that in a very good way.
We've got a stacked week.
Yeah. It's great. It's great. We put a really great interview in the can yesterday.
We sure did.
We've got an exciting meeting tomorrow, and we've got a great episode for y'all tonight.
We have a fantastic episode, two movies that I'm very excited to talk about that I pitched to you, I think, as soon as we started this show.
Yeah.
This is one of the first ideas I had of like, hey, this is a double feature I want to do. And now here we are.
Yeah.
End of February. It's finally happening. We are doing the female vampire double feature of Dracula's Daughter and A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. I'm so excited.
Yeah. These movies, spoiler alert, are both bangers. Yeah. This is going to be a fun episode.
Yeah, this is going to be a really fun episode. Spoiler right at the top here. It's going to be a long one, folks. So
yeah,
strap in, grab yourself a nice cold or warm beverage, depending on the day, especially here in South Dakota. It might just depend on what day you're listening to this, whether you need a hot or cold beverage. But sit back, relax, and enjoy this probably 2-hour-long show that we're about to embark on.
Yep.
All right, as we get going here, a little bit of a format change. We're going to try this out. We would love to hear from our audience, our Scream Demons, what you guys think of our format change. But we are going to change up the order in which we do some of the things on the show. We're going to kick things off with our main topic. And for this episode, it's Dracula's Daughter and A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. After that discussion, after the main topic discussion, then we'll get into our doobie doing and if there's any news to talk about. We don't really hit news every week anyway, unless there's something really big we want to talk about. So that segment's kind of fluctuates anyway. But yeah, all our doobie doing will be saved for the end. So you get the good stuff right away. We hope that you get hooked into the show and then like, well, what did these guys watch recently? And boy, we both have a whole lot of stuff we watched recently.
Yeah, we've got a great what are you doobie doing section. So stick around for it.
I bet I have close to a dozen movies on mine, plus like stuff I need to show off. So it's going to be a good one. All right, well, let's kick things off then. Main topic, like I said, Dracula's Daughter, A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. We're going to kick things off chronologically. We're going to take it all the way back to 1936, way back into the golden age of Universal monster movies. This is the last of that golden age of Universal monster movies in 1936. We are talking about the sequel to the Bela Lugosi classic, which came out in 1931. This is 1936's Dracula's Daughter, directed by Lambert Hillier. It stars Gloria Holden as the Countess Zaleska, the titular Dracula's daughter, Otto Kruger, who plays Jeffrey Garth, and Edward Van Sloan, the only returning cast member to this movie. Not playing the same character. They cheated a little. He is playing Von Helsing.
Yeah.
Not Van Helsing.
Yeah. This movie is a little wild. Universal at the time, this was like the biggest budget that they'd had for a movie, and there was some issue with the rights.
Mm-hmm.
They were essentially attempting to make this based off one chapter of Dracula, and then due to Bram Stoker having some kind of loose understanding of copyright laws, it just ended up falling under public domain, and they were able to do it without the permission of Bram Stoker. Then I guess I have no idea. It's a really weird situation.
That's why the Van Helsing is now Von Helsing.
They
sort of toe the line of, hey, we're gonna do this and not get sued by Bram Stoker and his wife, because at that time, like this is, I mean, this is almost 100-year-old movie. He was still around, like
Yeah.
yeah. So it's not an age where we are now. Like I said, almost 100 years later, where you have to worry about the copyrights for any of the Universal monsters. But yeah, this is such an interesting time for Universal in general because, like I said, this is the last of their classic monster movies
Hmm.
in terms of that initial wave. Obviously, we get more. You get like Creature from the Black Lagoon and all
Yep.
the
Wolfman and all
Frankenstein,
that.
yeah, all the Frankenstein sequels, Wolfman. You get more Dracula sequels down the road, but in terms of this main core Universal monster movies, this is the last one, especially for a while. This is the last one that the Laemmles worked on.
Hmm.
Carl Laemmle Jr. and Sr., I believe, correct? They were the heads of Universal at this time. This is the last movie that they would work on before it was basically they lost a bunch of money because they were gambling addicts and eventually had to get rid of the studio. Universal obviously still around to this day. The monster's still just as big as they were then, but yeah, this is kind of when the studio afterwards was like, yeah, we don't want to do monsters. So this was kind of the last hoorah for a little while.
Yeah. Yeah. And it definitely, it feels like it does kind of feel like the end of a phase.
Yes.
In every sense of the word. It's definitely tonally in line with the way from 1931 to 1936, this like 5-year span, both invented the horror movie and, well, not invented the horror movie, but basically this template created the modern horror movie, right? But it also kind of created the horror comedy, which I think is very present in Dracula's Daughter, because you go from 1931's Dracula and Frankenstein, both movies playing it pretty serious the whole way through like James Whale's Invisible Man, Bride of Frankenstein, and then Dracula's Daughter. There's just this comedic through line that keeps raising the bar in every subsequent release, it feels like. I don't necessarily know if like going from Bride of Frankenstein to Dracula's Daughter, that Dracula's Daughter is funnier than Bride of Frankenstein, but you can definitely see the influence as these movies progressed. Like each one kind of took what the last one put down and built upon it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's interesting to look at all of these movies and how much of like the horror template is set up in the Universal movies.
Yeah.
Of like a final girl, the big bad monster. You get like you said, horror comedy is pretty much ingrained into the Universal movies, especially
James Whale
the
kind of
later.
invented the modern horror comedy, essentially. Yeah.
And one interesting note is that when they were developing this movie, Whale obviously was like their go-to director during the time, doing the first two Frankensteins, Invisible Man. He was up to do this movie, and they're like, "This is too weird. You can't do this anymore."
Yeah.
And I still, I to this day, I'm like, I want to know what James Whale's Dracula's Daughter or Dracula sequel, I guess. I don't know if it was necessarily going to be Dracula's Daughter, but his sequel would look like, because Boris Karloff was attached to it, Colin Clive was as well. So it's like he would have brought his whole team into that, and I think Lugosi was on board for the longest time with this movie too.
Yeah, well, that's the thing too, is like at one point he was attached to this, and then he dropped out of the project for, well, I think he and the studio just kind of parted ways because the studio decided to go just a different route. But I don't know, maybe sort of a chicken and the egg situation.
Yeah, I think he I mean, seeing how they use Dracula in this movie, you can see why Lugosi, and knowing Lugosi's ego, was like, I'm not doing that. No.
Right.
Instead, so the movie opens. Let's get into the movie, I guess. The movie opens directly after 1931's Dracula. Van Helsing has slayed Dracula. He's put a wooden stake through his heart. You get to see it You get to see a Lugosi looking
Yeah, it's a wax dummy.
wax dummy, but it's close enough. It does the job. It gets the job done for what it needs to be.
It probably got the job done a lot better before the HD remasters.
I guess I watched this on. I have a DVD set of the Universal Dracula.
Okay.
That's how I watched it.
I watched it out of my Universal Monsters Blu-ray, the like 30 movie set, which are gorgeous scans and transfers. But yeah, you can see. I mean, you see every wrinkle in the matte painting backgrounds, and like it kind of makes me love them more, honestly.
I'm saying there's a charm. There's a charm to that, knowing that that's just a matte painting in the background.
Yep.
So, like I said, takes place right away after the initial events of 1931's Dracula. Van Helsing believes he's slayed the vampire, only to find out that Dracula's daughter, Countess Zaleska, she takes Dracula's body. She's the one that finishes him once and for all, burns the body, gets rid of it, and she's trying to basically set herself free from Dracula's curse. She doesn't want to be a vampire anymore. She doesn't want to do anything in this world, but along the way it starts getting the best of her. Like, she still has to feed. She feeds off both men and women alike, hence one of the reasons why we're going to talk about this movie. This is considered by many to be the first lesbian vampire movie. I don't agree with that.
Yep.
I'll agree with it's the first bisexual vampire movie, but
Absolutely.
I don't think it's the first lesbian vampire movie. But there's a scene that's probably the most infamous scene of this movie. About halfway through or so.
It's a great scene.
Where what I didn't write down. What's her assistant's name in this? He's a goofy character too.
Oh, what's his? It's something with an S. Sandor, played by Irving Pichel.
Sandor, who picks up this like homeless woman, I think is what she is, but just like a woman roaming the streets, and says, "Hey, do you want to make some money? Mm-hmm. My boss wants to do a painting of you." And it's the Countess, and she goes back to the Countess's studio and begins to like undress to get painted. And again, this is, I mean, it's pretty risque for 1936. Like,
yeah, I mean, she
shows shoulder,
completely
man.
off her shoulders. Yeah, like it's one of those, like, you're sitting in a theater in 1936. You're going, are they doing this? Like, mm-hmm. Which, baller move.
Yeah. And again, the Countess feeds off her, and the woman ends up dying a little bit later on in the movie, just kind of, in my opinion, a little anticlimactic.
Yeah.
But it does the job of moving the plot forward.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the way they kill her is a little lackluster. Just her being under hypnosis and having essentially
she ends up
a heart attack.
She's like in a coma, and then they do like hypnosis on her.
Yeah.
Basically say like what happened, and then she just dies right after.
Yeah. Yeah. It's strange, to say the least.
Yeah, it feels like they were just trying to move the plot forward. I mean, this movie's only, I think it's like an hour 10.
Yeah, it's 72 minutes.
Movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, it flies by. So this was your first time watching this movie.
Yes, this was. So like I had seen parts of it before. Like I play these in the background a lot, especially when they come on Peacock. I'll just let Peacock play Universal Monster movies in the background. So I'd seen bits and pieces of it, but I never sat down and watched the whole thing start to finish. I don't understand how this is a hot take, but apparently it still is. This is better than 1931's Dracula.
It is.
Like, and I know you've posited that since I've known you. But yeah, like to me it's night and day. And I love the 31 Dracula. It's so influential. Like it's maybe it is one of the most influential horror films of all time. Mm-hmm. But it's a little dry.
Yeah, it's not a perfect movie by any means.
Yeah. And so I don't know, like this to me does what I mean, Dracula's Daughter does to me what Bride of Frankenstein does for Frankenstein. It takes the movie before, like, it takes its predecessor's strengths and it expounds upon them while also adding in new elements that are, in my opinion, very welcome. I know that there are people that don't like the humor in this movie, and I don't understand not liking the humor. I don't think it detracts from the gothic
Mhm.
overtones of this. Like, I still think this is a very moody movie, with a lot of just, I don't know, good old goth vibes.
Mhm. Yeah, I think so. So this is my, I don't know, maybe like my third time watching this movie.
Hmm.
I have a very mixed history with Todd Browning's Dracula, where
Yeah.
when the first couple of times I watched it, middle of the road for me of like, I get it, I get why people like this. Finally watched it, I believe in the theater with the score.
Hmm.
And that just completely changes the movie. It's a completely different movie with the score added into it. But again, that's not the initial release of the movie. So
Hmm.
again, slippery slope on what you consider like Bela Lugosi's Dracula movie. But
Yeah.
this movie, I think, does most things better than the Lugosi movie in terms of its storytelling, of
Yeah.
using modern cinema techniques. That's one of my problems with the Todd Browning one. It feels like a stage play more so than a movie.
Yep.
But I think the gothic atmosphere of the first one surpasses this one until we get to that third act where we return to Dracula's castle and we're, kind of getting the bookend of returning to Transylvania. But
Yeah.
I think Gloria Holden holds her own as the lead in this movie.
Hmm.
She is just as hypnotic and mesmerizing as Lugosi is in the original film. I think she's perfectly cast in this because that's, I mean, at this, especially, by 1936, even by 31, when Lugosi did his first go around as Dracula, he's
Right.
synonymous with the character.
Yeah.
And so that's tough shoes to fill. And I think
That's
she does a great job in this movie.
I'd even argue like she's scarier than Dracula is to me. And it's simply like, and we'll talk about this with our other feature too, but it's the play on like, she seems like she should be less threatening just based on the fact that she is, by all appearances, just a very soft spoken, like beautiful woman that, like wouldn't hurt anyone. And there's something at play there that I just love with both of these movies where the like it's not just gender flipped to be gender flipped, like it is making a point about gender and how we perceive male versus female and that type of thing. And I don't know, I love when horror movies, especially vampire movies, play with that kind of stuff because I feel like vampires are such a good they're such a good movie creature to explore so many themes in that area of like
Mhm.
gender and sexuality and addiction, which doesn't really have to do with the other two, but like all of those are kind of present in all of those themes are present in both of these movies,
Mhm.
quite a bit. And they're kind of gold standards for vampire movies that actually comment on something further, you know?
Yeah, and that's where I feel like the James Whale influence on this movie can be felt, even though
Yeah.
he didn't direct it or any. For as much as I know, he had nothing to do with the actual production of this movie, Dracula's Daughter, besides being attached to it at one point. But again, the stuff he deals with in especially Bride of Frankenstein, where that movie is just way ahead of its time.
Yeah.
I think this movie might not be on the same level as Bride, but it's pretty dang close.
It's very
Especially for not
close.
having Whale involved with the movie. I think it gets as close as you can to that. Because yeah, like you said, our main antagonist of this movie is a female monster. Even in Bride of Frankenstein, the bride, as everybody knows, is in like the last 3 to 5 minutes of that movie.
And she's
Very,
far
very
from the
small.
villain. She's legitimately the sympathetic victim at the end of the movie. Like that's this like to me, the Countess is more like monster than Bride is. Although both are sympathetic characters because, the Countess doesn't even want to be a
Yeah.
monster.
And
So,
what I like about this is we don't get a whole lot of backstory of the Countess either.
yeah.
We just know at some point Dracula turned her.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of the not to get ahead again, but like that's the cool thing about both of these movies that we'll be talking about is they don't bog you down with like, oh, this is the backstory of the vampire. This is how this vampire came to be. And I think there's a time and a place for that, like an Anne Rice, interview with a vampire type of thing where it's literally just about the life of a vampire. But to me, the best vampire, like cinematically, the best type of vampire cinematically is the one where you're just dropped into kind of a slice of life of this vampire. Um, and I think this movie is very much reminiscent of that. Like you don't know where she came from, how she like when she turned. You assume Dracula obviously did it, but it's just she's out here, she's lonely, and she is looking for companionship more than anything. And I don't know. I love those kinds of stories.
That's one thing both of these movies deal with heavily is loneliness.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the big thematic through lines between both of these movies is how these characters deal with being lonely.
Yeah.
And I think they deal with it in very different ways from the Countess here and the girl in our next film we'll talk about. They both deal with it in very different ways. One more so the antagonist, the Countess, versus the
Kind of an
girl.
anti-hero.
Yeah, almost an anti-hero. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you feel of the main love interest of this movie, Garth? Besides the fact he looks like he's 30 years older than her.
Yeah. So Garth is such an he's such an interesting character. For whatever reason, I just he's brought into this movie because Von Helsing needs him to back him up for his legal procedure.
Though he's not a lawyer, he's
not a lawyer, he's a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
So it's so funny to me because I feel like Von Helsing just kind of is part of this movie for the inciting, like for the first act, and then he's just kind of in the background of this whole movie for the rest of it. Like,
yeah,
he doesn't really have a big part to play later on because it solely switches focus over to this Garth character,
who's
a
psychiatrist and is engaged, but yet like consistently goes out with the Countess.
Yeah, like,
and his fiance knows they're going out. It's not set up very well.
Is she his assistant though? Is that what it is at the start, or are they actually engaged?
I think they're engaged. They're definitely an item.
Well, see, that's just insane to me. Yeah.
But I mean, that's what I take from it. I guess it doesn't explicitly say it, I don't think.
So like I read it as like, oh, this is his assistant, but there's clearly something else there. And I don't dislike the relationship. Like, it's an interesting relationship. I do kind of dislike Garth. Because I'm like, who are you, man? Like, you have this like this woman who adores you, who is like,
he's also barely the protagonist of this movie. He's just kind of a guy that ends up being the semi-lead of this movie.
He's he's not the reason that you like show up for this movie.
Mm-mm.
I show up for Gloria Holden, and I show up for, I don't know the actress's name, but Janet, the assistant fiance person. I show up for Lily, the homeless girl who just wants to model for a painting. You know,
Mhm.
like the female characters are the ones with agency. They're the ones that propel the plot forward. The men are running around with their thumbs up their asses the entire movie, and that includes the cops.
Yeah.
This is like a very early version of like a bumbling cop idiot type of movie.
Yeah, they're the cops from Halloween 5, like the template for
Exactly.
those
Yeah.
years later. What's interesting is something you brought up there is that all the female characters, yes, have agency. You kind of immediately know who the characters are.
Yeah. Like they
Whereas
all
the
have
male
bigger
character,
personalities than the male characters.
yeah, which is something you don't often see, especially during this time in horror movies,
Yeah.
where it's
Well,
usually the male characters are leading, and then there's a female love interest
who's
that
just kind of there.
who's there, and maybe the monster takes at some point.
Yeah. Which
Here, it's the exact opposite. Except
yeah,
Garth still gets to be like have a little proactiveness and goes to like
he
Dracula's
goes to
castle by the end of the
Dracula's
movie,
castle.
but so it's not like exactly tit for tat that way, but more so than really any other horror movie during this time.
I would argue
It is doing that gender flip.
right. And it's like the male character that has the most development, I'd say, is Sandor, the assistant to the Countess. And you really don't even get anything from him until like the final act of the movie.
Yeah.
I
Like
mean, final
his
7 minutes,
I was
really.
gonna say his final act in the movie, the last thing he does. It's like, oh, all right, I guess he's changed now. He's a changed man.
Yeah.
He has
it's so
he has a really
strange.
funny scene that I have to bring up with the Countess, where she's like thinking of a life outside of being a vampire, and she's like, and I dream of bright blue skies, and he's like, you mean dark blue skies where
Yeah.
bats are flying. No,
Yeah.
I'm dreaming of a castle far, far away, a castle with cobwebs and spiders all over.
Yeah. This guy wants to be a vampire so bad.
Yeah.
He's the Guillermo of this
He
this
is-
movie.
He is the template for Guillermo, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like, it's kind of funny. They went from Dwight Fry giving one of the most unnerving performances as a Renfield, as you know, as the Renfield character. And that's what Sandor is in this, but just in a completely opposite direction. Like
Yeah.
he is menacing at times, but like mostly he's just hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, he is just wanting to be a vampire so bad. Tell underneath the surface that's all he wants.
Yep. It's kind of great. It's kind of great.
That's where I would love to see. So, I mean, this movie was rumored to be getting I guess like a remake from the Radio Silence crew, and that's why we're getting Abigail.
Yeah.
Which is I guess maybe sort of like a reimagining of Dracula's daughter, but
it's a reimagining in the way that like Lee Winnell's reimagining of the Invisible Man is. Meaning like there's an invisible man, and in this one, Dracula has a daughter who's evidently a 9-year-old like ballerina.
Yeah.
I mean, which is fine. I'm just, especially after watching this one all the way through, I kind of wish that we'd have like, and maybe the Radio Silence movie will prove me wrong. I just don't see that being as thematically deep as like what this is.
Oh, no, not at all. Not at all. But I do think there's a version of this movie that could be updated and remade nowadays.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, God, in a sense, the next movie we're going to talk about is almost, it's not a remake of it, obviously, but like it takes what this built, and it is kind of a modern version of at least some of the themes and the vibe
Hmm.
of this movie, you know.
Yeah. Well, let's get to that movie. So,
Let's get to that movie.
Dracula's Daughter. How many fangs would you give Dracula's Daughter?
This is a 4 fang out of 5 fang movie for me. I really liked it.
Mhm.
I I'm a sucker for Universal monster movies in general. This, in my opinion, is one of the more underrated ones. Um, I mean, I've been all out of order watching that box set. Like I've watched some of the weird sequels before I've watched some that like I know are better. And so I can say definitively that this one is severely underrated
Yeah.
and is a step above quite a few of those later movies.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, I'm right at a 3.5 to 4, right in that same range
Hmm.
on this movie. Yeah, I love this movie. When I binged like pretty much, I would say 95% of the Universal monster movies at the like beginning of COVID. This
Hmm.
was one of my favorite ones at the end of watching them all, and the one that stuck out to me as the best Dracula movie. Yeah, I love this movie. It's one I can't wait to revisit, and just one that's I think not enough people talk about or I've seen,
Yep.
especially compared to other Universal monster movies, because we talk about like the big ones, and I just don't think we give Countess Zaleska enough love at
Yeah.
all.
This this movie this movie should make it a 9 pack. You know those like 8 packs that have the like all the basic like Frankenstein, Dracula,
Yeah.
Bride of Frankenstein, all those. Like this movie should be in those.
Yes.
Like it's on that tier. So yeah,
100%.
agreed. Agreed.
All right, let's fast forward almost 80 years later to 2014's A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night from writer director Anna Lily Amapour. The movie stars Sheila Vand as the girl, Arash Marandi as the character of Arash. Uh, let's set up the plot of this movie, because again, kind of like Dracula's Daughter, I still feel like not enough people have watched A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. And
Yes.
I mean, the best way I put it is it's an Iranian vampire Western love story, and it follows a young man caring for his drug addicted father when he crosses paths with a mysterious woman, the titular girl, who kills his father's drug dealer, and that kind of kicks off those two characters eventually crossing paths in this movie. It's a black and white movie. It is, in my opinion, one of the trendsetters of modern horror. Because here we are, 10 years removed from this movie. I told you that I want to talk a little bit about this era of horror,
Yeah.
especially 2014 and 2015, because I feel like we're coming off the tail end of the remake craze, which somehow
Hmm.
we're kind of back in now. We're in like the requel phase.
Yeah.
But this is at like the tail end of that, because you had, all the big slashers had their big remakes by this point. 2013, was this the same year as Texas Chainsaw 3D? 2013 was, right?
2013 was Texas Chainsaw
Was that.
3D.
And I
Yep.
kind of
Yep.
feel like that was the last
That was kind of the final nail in the
of those.
coffin of
Yeah.
that era, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We
A
didn't
movie
get.
a movie I think we'll talk about a little later, I guess.
Oh yes, we will. Yeah.
Texas Chainsaw 3D.
Yeah. Yeah.
But 2014 for me, like, it's the turning point. It's the rise of like the A24
Yep.
horror movie. And this one is not, it's not an A24 movie. It's produced by Vice of all things.
Yeah.
But yeah, this era really is like, for me, the changing point of that, because you have this movie, you also have It Follows comes out this same
Hmm.
year. I think those two movies still don't get enough credit of what they set up going forward, because then you get the next year, 2015, was The Witch.
Well, I want to say 2014 was when I feel like Your Next finally got out of that like release hell that it seemed to be in between like its festival run in 2011 and
Yeah,
then
like
like actually getting a home release and finally
2013,
being able to
2014. Yeah.
Yeah, it was right around there. So you had that one that kind of mixed, like indie mumblecore with hardcore gore films, um, which we're still seeing a lot of. I mean, I'd even argue that most of the requels that we're using. I mean, they got David Gordon Green to do a whole Halloween trilogy that was essentially just a super slick modern mumblegore movie.
Yeah.
This was, yeah, you're right. 2014 was just the turning point where it
Hmm.
started becoming more about the vibe almost than just like the gore and the kills and the like and the boobies and all that,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, it's really the rise of art house horror movies where
yeah.
there's another term. I don't like that term. I think it's a terrible
The
term.
yeah, the elevated
Elevated
bullshit.
horror. Yeah,
Yeah.
elevated horror started in 2014, not in like the beginning of film.
Elevated horror happened in 1931 when James Whale directed Frankenstein.
I mean, yeah, or even, but I mean, I think even before that, I think like
Yeah, you're right.
Nosferatu has elements of
Nosferatu is
elevated horror. Anyway, but
genuinely, yeah.
that term, like 2014, is like the kickoff of that term and people using it.
Hmm.
And I think we owe a lot to movies like A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night and It Follows and The Witch, of like the trendsetters for that. Where I think we've taken some of the bad parts of the future movies after that and continued them. Where I
Yeah.
think all of a sudden everyone's like, trauma horror, that's it. That's the only horror metaphor we can use. It's like,
Yeah.
well, A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night doesn't do that at all. It tells so many different
It's traumatic for
it's
sure,
traumatic, but it's
but
not about someone's trauma as the monster.
and it also
Where
isn't
again,
explicitly about trauma. Like
yeah,
I'm so sick of these elevated horror movies that literally in the dialogue are like, "Oh, it's trauma." Like these movies aren't even they don't even allow their audience to be smart enough to pick up on the metaphor
yeah.
discreetly. Like it is just shoved in your face.
Like another 2014 one where I think it's like, okay, that movie dealt with trauma. Why do we all have to do that afterwards? The Babadook also came
Hmm.
out this year. And it again, like, did it perfectly and wasn't in your face of like, that's what the Babadook is this woman's trauma.
Yeah.
Whereas so many other horror films have done that since. Anyway, back to this movie. I think another thing that came about at this time, because this is where I watched it, was on Netflix. And I
Yeah.
watched it back when Netflix actually carried like horror movies.
Good
I,
stuff.
yeah, I remember watching this and The Babadook on Netflix because right around this time, 2014, 2015. And those were just like game changers of like, I know these aren't ever going to play in a theater near me, but I can watch them at home and discover something new and interesting and something I've never seen before. And that's
Yeah.
what those movies did. I remember seeing It Follows in the theater, was lucky enough to actually have that movie play around here. And yeah, I think this was, again, it was just a game changing time. I know I'm talking up 2014 a lot. That was like my, like, also my,
2014 was a great movie year,
yeah,
man.
that
Even
was
like
my,
the
that was my
even
turning point in being a movie fan of like, I like movies to I love movies.
yeah, like 2014, even the Oscar pool that year was like a pretty good mix of like weird different movies.
Yeah.
Like I remember
First,
actually
John
being
Wick was
super
2014.
into awards season. Yeah, like John Wick hit like 2014 will go down as like one of those great movie years like
Yeah.
1999 did, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
like that's the best thing about like the year 1999. I'm still discovering movies from 1999 that I'm like, "Oh my god, like this came out this year too." And that's what A Girl Who Walks Home Alone at Night is for
Yeah.
me in 2014. I did not watch this movie 10 years ago. I watched this movie 5 days ago and I have not been able to stop thinking about it. Um it's so funny that you lump this one in with like It Follows and The Witch and all of those like those ones that kind of kickstarted this movement. Not because I think that it doesn't belong there because it's 100% in that echelon, but because I don't feel like the general public or just the general horror fandom and like this is such a severely under talked about movie. I was looking for podcasts on this movie, podcast episodes, and there is a shockingly low number of horror podcasts that have talked about this. And it's insane to me because where are our 20 different direct ripoffs of this like we have had for just
There's
about every single one of those other
nothing.
movies? There's nothing that comes close to touching this movie, right? And I heard to go on a little thing. One of the first things I saw when I went in to research this movie, when I looked at Letterboxd reviews, when I just kind of tried to find the general pulse of how people felt about this movie, because when the credits rolled on this, I was blown away. Like I was on another planet, like I was on another like plane of existence when this movie rolled credits. The first thing I saw was someone comparing this to Tarantino. And for one thing, okay, I get it, whatever. Like Tarantino, I get the Tarantino reference in the fact that like Armapur is clearly pulling different things from all these different things that she likes, from records to different movies to just genres in general, and playing with different things and combining them into something wholly unique, which is very much what Tarantino does. But Tarantino has never made anything on this level. And I will die on. I know people are going to come for me.
We're going to get yelled at again.
But no, Tarantino has never done anything this thematically deep and resonant. And like, nothing like this. The
Tarantino fanboys already hate us because of our Death Proof episode. Yes, so they're going to come at us again for this.
They are, but
I agree.
It's okay. Oh man, this to me, like I was watching this going like, if you had told me that this movie was made this year in 2024, I still would have been like, this is ahead of its time. And it was made back in 2014. Like,
this is one of those movies, whenever I bring it up to people and they're like, yeah, I've never seen that. Most people probably have never heard of A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night.
Right.
Let alone seen this movie. And yeah, I mean, again, I saw this 10 years ago. I've seen it once in between. So this is my third time watching it. And still every time I'm just kind of blown away by this movie. And I wonder if, I know we're jumping ahead. Spoilers for A Girl Walks Home One Night. We are going to spoil it. Go watch it. It is, I mean, it's streaming. You got to rent it or purchase it. Just do it. You're gonna love this movie just as much as we did. So go watch it, and if you have to come back, come back. But
and it goes without saying, I am gonna spoil one thing, because the first scene in the whole movie introduces a cat, and if you're like me, the first thing I did was I Googled, does the cat die in this movie? The cat is fine. It's an adorable cat, and it's arguably the star of the whole freaking movie.
It's a final character by the end of it.
It is, yeah.
But going all the way to the end of the movie, where the girl and I gotta pull up the character's name again. Arash. End up like they're in the car together, and they're like, we're gonna try this out. We're gonna see wherever the future takes us. I wonder if that's what people are referring to as like the Tarantino-ness of this movie. Just like it looks like a Tarantino shot, I guess.
It does, but
I'm like, it's the
Graduate. It looks like a Tarantino shot because Tarantino took it from like tons of other movies, right? Like The Graduate, exactly.
This movie, the end of this movie is The Graduate. Except it's not a bride, it's a vampire.
It's a vampire, a skateboarding vampire.
A skateboarding vampire.
Oh,
this movie rules. Okay, so this is like I said, it's an Iranian black and white vampire movie, but
set in Iran, in a fictional city within Iran.
Yeah,
but filmed in California. So cool.
Yeah, skateboarding vampire who listens to like 70s, 80s music, total punk rock aesthetic.
This is like I've been listening to the soundtrack at work, It's so good.
So good.
They have a white lies needle drop. They needle drop death
Yep.
in like a pivotal scene in
And the
this
best
movie.
scene of this movie. I
It's
think it's the best
so
scene of
good.
this
It
movie.
is. It's the
There's no
best. Like
dialogue.
I was just mesmerized the entire time, and it's just a scene of two characters physically moving closer together very slowly as literally the entire like 5 minute song plays. It's incredible.
You best believe we'll be using that song for all of our promotional material for this episode.
Oh my god, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I love that scene. And that's like the scene that stood out to me like every time I watch this, of like that's the
Yep.
scene I remember and kind of play through my head consistently. What I even like the thing I don't always remember is about Arash's father.
Mm-hmm. He's
And
like a
that
real scumbag.
he was a scumbag. He's a heroin addict. And like that's like the inciting incident of this movie is that he's taking care of his dad, and you can tell he has he's got his shit together.
Yep. He
Like
knows exactly how many hours he worked to buy his really nice car.
Yep.
Like he's a
He's
very
taking
hardworking young man.
Yeah, he's taking care of his dad, even
Yep.
though his dad, he's super addicted to drugs, has no signs of stopping, is way
Mhm.
behind on payments to his drug dealer.
Yep.
And that's so the drug dealer character, he's so much fun in this movie. He's such a total scumbag. But yeah, the dad's addicted, and the drug dealer's like, I'm gonna take your car then. Like, if you can't pay, I'm taking your car.
Yep.
And that's how we end up getting the girl to meet the drug dealer.
Yep.
And again, hypnotic, mesmerizing. That's where like the Dracula's daughterness of this movie comes in, because he invites her back to his place, the drug dealer.
Mm-hmm.
And she says nothing to this guy. Well, he's just like snorting lines up and down.
Yeah, offering her drugs and like, well, because she watches him like essentially assault one of his prostitutes, because he's also a pimp. He's not just a drug dealer, he's a pimp. He, and yeah,
just
one of his girls.
He's not a good guy. He's
not a good guy.
No, he's not a good guy.
I also I did see somewhere, I read somewhere that like the face tattoos that he had were very much like, that does not happen in Iran. Like, it's actually illegal to, and I think that's a really interesting note, because like I mean, they just literally call the town Bad City. There's no cops in this movie. There's just a ravine full of dead bodies. Like, it's a lawless, awful town. And I love that they play on like I love that they take real Iranian laws and like kind of incorporate that into the lawlessness of the titular of Bad City.
Mm-hmm.
That's just, I don't know, cool. It's cool, like attention to detail type of.
This movie has almost like a comic book aesthetic to it.
Yeah,
and that takes place in the fictional. And yeah, they did a I think it's like a prequel.
Yeah, it's like a prequel graphic novel type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely seeking that out.
But yeah, like Bad City, that's like something straight out of like The Mask. Like The Mask would live in Bad City. Like that's what that it feels like. And that it's all black and white, again, adds to like this pulpy atmosphere of this movie.
Yeah. And it's shot in the same style as a Western, but it looks like a noir almost. In its just lighting, and it's
and also has like great use of like shadows. Like it almost at times feels like, again, a Universal monster movie, because it has these big wide shots, and you have the girl and whoever she's stalking, and she's just following them, and it's just beautifully composed, and again, haunting of her following someone.
Yep. When she's following Addie, the prostitute that we see earlier with Saeed, that sequence to me is like one of the scariest. And maybe not scariest, but it's just unnerving.
Yes.
The way it's framed, the way she's always kind of lurking in the background.
Consistently getting closer and closer and closer.
Yeah. And there's another great sequence that plays out more like a jump scare sequence with a little boy who she's just essentially trying to scare into not growing up to be like any of the other men in Bad City, which is such a great sequence.
She wants his skateboard. Like
that too.
She's trying to scare him, sure, but she's really after that skateboard.
She's after the skateboard.
And yeah, you get this incredible shot of her just skateboarding down the road towards like coming into frame towards the camera. Incredible shot.
There's that wide shot of her just guiding herself along the wall. And just there's so much. Like, this movie is the epitome of like a movie where most of the time I would be like, why was this a feature length? This should be a half an hour short. This movie has so much stuff that like you could cut, but why would you?
Yeah.
You know, like,
there's a scene like halfway through the movie of like a character. I don't even know who the character is. I'm trying to remember.
It's Rockabilly, the one that's the gender fluid.
Yeah,
like,
and
person
just like
in a cowboy tassel shirt.
Yeah, just like dancing.
It's beautiful. It's one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie.
It has nothing to do with the plot of this movie, but I'm like, don't cut that.
Yep. It's just, and that's another like Iranian culture type of thing where it's like, you cannot be gender fluid in Iran. You cannot be like, it's still illegal to be gay there. Like, I don't know. This movie has so many layers, so many layers.
Yeah. And speaking of layers, like all the characters in this movie have layers to themselves. I think the drug dealer is probably like the only one that's like,
he's just a scumbag.
I mean, he's black and white, no pun intended. He's just he's a shithead. He's awful. He's an awful person.
And he has terrible facial hair. Seriously, the two like caterpillar, like, come on.
Shave it.
Come on.
Get rid of it. Nobody likes it. It rubbed off from the cocaine, I think.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
From the friction.
from the friction. Like Ron Swanson. But yeah, like the girl has so many layers because it's like, again, we don't know her backstory.
Yeah.
I think she says how long she's been a vampire, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Like for like decades and decades and decades. It's not something new.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I can't remember what she says, but she doesn't have very much. I mean, there's hardly any dialogue in this movie at all.
Especially from her.
Yeah. Like she's very much just silent for most of it. Like you said, the scene with the drug dealer, like she doesn't say anything to him. I don't think that entire time.
No.
Like if she does say anything to him, I don't remember it. She just stares at him for an uncomfortably long time. And then
does she say anything to Arash?
Don't they talk?
At least in their first encounter. So their first encounter is like she's leaving the drug dealer's place and he's showing up. Yeah. And that's their first interaction with each other, and they just kind of stare at each other of like,
and she just leaves the gate open for him.
Yep.
Yep.
And he rolls up and he's like, oh, this guy's dead. At least I can get my car back. And just takes the keys and leaves.
Takes the keys. Doesn't just take the keys. He takes the briefcase full of drugs and
the money. Yeah. I don't blame him. I mean,
I don't either. Yeah.
Would have done the same.
And then so then he decides to sell the drugs.
He's not even like, but yeah. And then at the club, he's not even trying to really sell them. He just gives them out to one girl who he has a thing for.
Yeah. The one that
friend.
he worked for her.
Yeah.
He was like a
maintenance
house hand or something. Yeah. And he quit because he got the drugs and the money. And she gets him to take an ecstasy pill. And it just doesn't go well for him. You know?
So this is like halfway through the movie. They're at like a costume party, and he takes ecstasy for the first time.
He's dressed as Dracula.
He's dressed as Dracula. It ends with him. He leaves the club. and ends up getting stalked by the girl.
Yep.
And it's such a great like visual of him like in this very Spirit Halloween Dracula costume with the fake
It's like a tacky
vampire teeth.
vinyl cape.
Yeah. And you see her coming up behind him. And they just had this very like cute, and it's like it's a cute exchange, but it's also like, oh no, is she gonna attack him?
Yeah. And then he hugs her.
Yeah.
Like he sees that she's cold, and so he wraps his like cape around her. And you think for a minute, like, I mean, her head is right below his neck, like right below his neck. And then nothing happens because she's like, wow, he's being a decent person. And that you see the act, like, for a wordless performance, like Sheila Vand is just, she's doing incredible work in this. Like every emotion, like she is underacting to the point of like barely doing anything at all, and yet somehow is still bringing everything across, you know? I just, yeah, her eyes are so expressive, I think, is the thing.
Yeah,
like,
and you can tell this character hasn't had like a real interaction with like a decent human being in a very, very long time. Maybe in a completely different life. Like that's how long it's been. And during the scene where she's like stalking him, she's like, well, do you want to go back to like my place is just like around the corner. I live in this neighborhood. And he's like, I can't walk.
Yeah.
And you see this moment where she's like, looks over, realizes her skateboard is right there, and he sits on it, and she's pushing him down the street.
They smash cut to her literally wheeling him on. Yep, it's so good.
Yeah,
it's like, that's the thing. This movie is so sweet too. Like but it's also like very visceral. Like the vampire attack sequences, the way that Sheila Van's giving a very like slow, methodical performance, and then when she jumps into predator mode, it's like every part of her comes alive, but in a different way. Like there's just an unnatural and fast way in which she moves, and that might be part camera trickery, I have no idea, or it might just be pure physical performance, but it's terrifying. And having her like having the scene with Saeed, the drug dealer, having the scene with the little boy, and then carrying that straight through into her meeting with him, like there's a palpable sense of like, oh my God, what is going to happen?
You say there's a constant sense of danger.
Yeah. And then they smash cut to that skateboard, and it just, you laugh, and it's not like a laugh out loud, but I think it's just the breaking of tension just like forces a sound out of you. It did for me anyways.
And I don't think that tension goes away when they do the next scene where it's back at her place and she puts on the White Lies record, and it's like it has that similar feeling of the previous scene of like there's always a sense of danger, but it's also like there's such a sweetness to this of these two characters just like getting close. Like she turns around and they just get closer and closer and closer to each other.
It's like that song was just written for this movie.
Yeah,
you know. And also, I'll say this: when that song hit, I was like, oh my God, I know this song. Like, and obviously, like everybody knows this song. It was a pretty big hit back in like 08, 09 or whatever. But I'm like, no, I like know this song from a very specific movie. It's on the Jennifer's Body soundtrack. I've been listening to this track on CD since 2009.
Hey, this movie even pulls from Jennifer's Body, I guess.
It even pulls from Jennifer's Body.
Yeah, it's much better than Jennifer's Body.
I agree. And I love Jennifer's Body. So, but yeah. Oh, this movie.
Yeah, the ending. I want to talk a little bit about the ending. I know I already mentioned like it's The Graduate with a vampire, but it's such an incredible ending to this movie that it does, again, it does the thematic elements of The Graduate of, hey, these two characters we want to see get together at the end of this movie. And it's such a movie trope of like, oh, they finally get together, happy ending type of thing. The Disney effect.
Mm-hmm.
But it lingers on the shot of the two together. And same with The Graduate of like, okay, we're together at this point in time, but what happens after this?
Yeah.
And just leaves the audience with that of like, well, what happens after this? Does she turn him? Does she eventually just, leave him because she can't deal with, being in a romantic relationship with a human? Does he get old and die and then she's off onto a whole new life path afterwards? There's so many questions that are just left up to us to think about.
Yeah. Well, it's that great kind of like slice of life type of thing, like this is just, it feels like they're both moving towards something different. What that is, like, obviously the movie's not even very interested in what that is, you know? I will say using the cat as almost like a plot device is just kind of an ingenious move. Because like I said, like we talked about earlier, like the opening scene is him literally like bringing this cat home. So like right away, like they set it up. It's like Chekhov's cat,
Mm-hmm.
like and that's how he finds out that the girl, I mean, we're gonna spoil this, so spoiler alert, sorry.
Yeah, we've already spoiled it.
Yeah, the girl kills his father because his father injects, like forcibly injects heroin into Addie, the prostitute from
Mm-hmm.
earlier. And Arash finds this out by, like, she takes the cat, like the father had the cat because Arash kicked the cat out with him for whatever reason. Don't be a dick, Arash. Like the cat did nothing. But either way, dad has the cat, girl kills dad, takes cat. Arash comes to like pick her up, and the cat comes out with her, and he puts two and two together because he's already, well, yeah, he sees his father's body and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, such a dumb thing to be like, oh, that's like one of my favorite things about this movie. But I am a cat person, and that is an adorable cat. And the fact that the emotional crux of the third act hinges on a shot of this adorable cat walking out of a bedroom into a kitchen is just like, it's my favorite thing in just about any movie in the last 20 years. I
And
really love it.
there's also there's so many things to dissect in this movie that we're not going to touch on just at all.
Yeah.
Just because there's so many different things in this movie that have some sort of meaning. But even just the cat and what a cat represents, what do cats have? 9 lives. That means they can live multiple lifetimes. What do vampires do? Same thing. They live multiple lifetimes. And using the girl and the cat as almost a balance between the two and how they relate to Arash and him moving forward. It feels like he's getting a fresh start almost away from Bad City. He's getting out of this relationship with his dad. He ends up with, with a brand new friend and someone, a romantic companion. Also, he gets his car. Like, he still has his car by the end of the movie. Like, something he worked very, very hard for and almost had taken away because of his dad.
Yep.
And it feels like that fresh start is on the way for him. Where it goes after that, I don't know. I mean, that's up to, again, interpretation on where everybody ends up at the end. Not even just at the end of the movie, where they go on after the movie.
Right. Well, and that's the thing is, like, the way we're talking about it, you'd almost be like, oh, so it's like open for a sequel. But this is not a movie that requires a sequel. This is not a movie that, like, I wouldn't want to see the sequel to this. Like, this is a perfect.
It does not matter what happens next.
Yeah.
Or what I think happens next, because I probably think something different than what you think happens next, and what the director thinks happened next. It's up to your own interpretation. And I love movies that end that way of like,
Yep.
That's up to you. You figure out what happens next.
Yep. It's just to me this like the fact that we don't have 20 vampire westerns in black and white and in this like style.
The fact that there's not more skating vampires out there.
Yeah, like what the hell, you know? I just is all we have the original Fright Night 2 and this as far as skating vampires go? Is that it? Is that all I'm ever gonna get? Like Fright Night 2 was rollerblades too. It wasn't even as cool, you know?
Yeah, rollerblades are not as cool as a skate.
They're not as cool. I mean, I don't know. This movie, like I said, I watched this about 5 days ago. I have not stopped thinking about this movie since. I'll just say it, like this is an all-time favorite already. Like I'm blown away by this movie.
Yeah.
Like I said, when credits rolled, I was on a different plane of existence, man. It was just I was flying so high. This movie just
Well, let's get to it. How many fangs are you giving A Girl Walks Home Alone? I'm changing my I gave my letterbox rating. I gave it a 4. It's a 5. It's a 5 fang. 5 fang.
It's a 5 fang movie, like easily. There's nothing else like this. Nothing else. And I can't wait. Like I haven't seen a single other thing that Armapur has done. I'll probably be talking about a lot of her stuff in the upcoming episodes of Screams because I'm going to be seeking it out. Like,
yeah, again, the only other thing I've seen is her segment on Cabinet of Curiosities, and it's not like this movie at all.
Yeah. Well, something as weird and singular as this movie, I would hope that all of her stuff is as weird and singular as that, even if it's not particularly to my taste, you know?
A perfect way to describe her episode of Cabinet of Curiosities. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so go check both of these out. This was
a great double feature. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's no other movies that I can think of to pair together besides these two with one another. I feel like they're cut from the same vampire cape.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You could people out there, if you also like vampire westerns, you could do a vampire western in Near Dark and this one. But I think that both of those are so
very different.
Tonally very different, like completely different takes on the genre. Because this is spaghetti western, and like Near Dark is 80s like Young Guns type of western.
Yeah.
Both are great in their own ways, but yeah.
One's an American western, one's an Italian western.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Well, people out there listening, Scream Demons, let us know what your thoughts are on both of these movies. Have you seen them? Is this going to be a first-time watch for everyone out there as you guys listen to this episode or watch this episode? Let us know your thoughts on both of these movies. We love them. These, can't get higher recommendations from both of us to go watch these movies.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Sam, let's get our new format going. I don't know how we transition from our main topic into the next segment, but we're going to.
We're gonna talk some news, some Screaming Mad news.
We got some news. What's Screaming Mad today?
So I just added a couple of things that I don't know. I'm excited about it. Chucky season 3 is coming back. It's hitting the airwaves April 10th. Did I talk about this on the last one?
I think we've talked about it before. Yeah.
Shit.
That's all right. Chucky's coming back. That's all we gotta say. I mean, I don't know what else we're gonna say about it.
Once Chucky starts back up, I'm gonna be talking about this on every episode anyways, so we might as well just
I should try to catch up before April 10th.
You should. Get through season 2 because you won't like it because it's very seed. It's very seed of Chucky.
Yeah.
Watch it anyways. Because 3 is a different beast entirely, man. Like the first half of season 3 was nuts. So I think you'll like it. And also I wanted to give a shout out. We shared this out on our socials. But we have speaking of vampires, we have a vampire series being produced right here in South Dakota in the Rapid City area by a friend of the show, Ryan Brewer. We've
Shout
screened,
out Ryan Brewer.
yeah, shout out to Ryan Brewer. We've screened some of his work for the SuperCon Film Fest, and yeah,
Resident Evil fan film he did.
Resident Evil fan film, really good Resident Evil fan
Yeah.
film. Great photographer, great director. He is looking for help getting his vampire series made. It is called The Controller. He's got an Indiegogo campaign right now. If you go to our socials, we've shared it in the last week. And go find The Controller page on Facebook and like that for updates. He's already released the prologue onto YouTube. You can check that out. It's pretty cool stuff, the world he's building. And it's neat that we have something like that in South Dakota. So go check that out.
As two dudes who are currently working on another South Dakota based TV show, we understand how much hard work and dedication and time and effort goes into something like this. And the one we're working on, I mean, it's a comedy in one location, so I can't imagine how much work is going into a vampire horror series with like special effects and makeup and tons of actors. So
and locations,
yeah.
Yeah.
Mad props to Ryan. We definitely got to get him on maybe when this comes out, or at some point Ryan will be on this show to talk about The Controller in depth.
Yeah.
So be on the lookout for that down the road. It's gonna happen. Ryan probably doesn't know it, but it's gonna happen.
Yeah. Ryan, if you're listening, which you probably are, I feel like you listen most of the time. Yeah, you're gonna be on the show soon, buddy.
Yeah, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen whether you know it or not.
So
is that it for news? Is that all
that's
we got?
it for news. That's all I got for news. So Casey.
Hey, there's one other news thing I didn't put in there. Maybe we can just talk about for a quick second.
Yeah, what?
There are talks of American Psycho remake happening.
That's
did
right.
You hear about that?
Yeah, I did hear that. Yep.
All I'm gonna say is no. Moving on.
It's funny. I feel like there's.
What can you do with it? What can you do with American Psycho?
I feel like there's a way to do it. I don't know if I have faith that anyone in today's film market will actually be able to pull it off. That's just going to be a tightrope act. Like, it's not Mike Flanagan style, but it would take a Mike Flanagan style miracle to get an American Psycho reboot to actually work.
I don't know what you can do with it. I really don't.
Yeah, Casey, that's for different minds than us.
Yeah, I guess.
It's anyway. Like if someone asked me to remake, no, I can't think it. No, because all of the things that I'm thinking of, I would remake just because I love them so much. Like Chopping Mall or Christine.
Yeah, I can see both those happening. It's just American Psycho. I don't know what else you can do different with it.
Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah. Anyway, what do we got next?
Oh yeah, what are you be doing?
Yeah. The only thing we have left to do, Sam.
New format's messing with me, man.
Yeah. All right. I'm trying to think of where to start with mine, because I have a lot of. I think I'm gonna start with stuff I'm gonna show off first, and then I'll get to the movies I watched.
Yeah. I know we've got a few crossovers, so
yeah. So I picked both of these up at Walmart. We did interviews for both of these movies. I picked up, first of all, The Puppet Man.
Yeah.
Brandon Christensen's latest film, streaming on Shudder. You can pick up the DVD now on from Walmart, like $10. Shudder releases. That's what I love about Shudder. They release every Shudder original on DVD, so you can at least get it in your physical media collection. No other streaming service does something like that. So I love what they do. And you get all you get an alternate ending, you get commentary, deleted scenes, all the fun stuff you expect from bonus features. You get it on this. So I'm excited to dive into that. Yeah. And I'm low key just gonna start a collection of like every interview we do. I'm gonna buy the physical copy of, just because.
Hell yeah, dude!
I don't know. I think it's cool.
It is cool.
speaking of, I picked up A Creature Was Stirring,
Yeah.
which we chatted with director Damien Levesque about this movie.
That's such a fun interview too.
Such a
Yeah.
fun interview, a wild Christmas creature feature. Stars, Chrissy Metz from that
This
one.
Is Us.
This Is Us. I was like
Yeah.
that one TV drama.
The one TV drama that neither of us watched, but we still somehow know about.
I watched one episode of it, and like, I get it. Like, I watched, whatever.
Because it doesn't have Sterling K. Brown in it too.
Yeah,
Yeah. I've seen an episode probably.
Milo.
Oh,
what's his name?
the
from
Ventimiglia or something. Yeah.
Heroes. Yeah. Creature Was Stirring. Also, I don't know if there's special features on this. They're not listed. I would assume there should be some.
Yeah,
but I will find out at some point. Yeah,
you gotta figure out. Well, I mean, we kind of talked to him about the porcupine monster design.
I know, that's what I want, some special features on that.
Yeah, exactly.
Picked up some comic books as well. I don't know if I showed one of these off, but I picked up issue number 2 of Count Crowley. This is like the sequel series, the mediocre Midnight Monster Hunter, which is now the second volume of Count Crowley. I haven't dived into these yet. I will probably wait till all 4 come out, just because comic books you can read so quick. I'm like,
yeah,
I just want to read the entire story when it comes out.
Yeah, when I used to do comics like weekly in issues before I just started buying the trade paperbacks, I'd wait until I had the full like run of it before I read them anyways, because it was like if I read them weekly, I'd be rereading all the ones leading up to it anyways, because it's like, well, it's been 2 weeks since I got the last issue. Why would I?
Or in the case of these, I think it's a month. Yeah.
Yeah, there's like some of them are a month, some of them are 2 weeks. Like, yeah, it's crazy.
Next up, friend of the show, Tony Fleeks worked on this one, Army of Darkness Forever.
Yeah.
This is issue number 2. This is his cover that I got. I didn't realize I had already purchased this, so you have I have it
now too.
My original copy. I think we're a couple issues behind. I think they're on like issue 4 or 5 now.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So we're a little behind. Yeah, I love this. It takes place right after Army of Darkness. It does both, and it takes place after both endings of Army of Darkness. It combines those endings into one entity with Army of Darkness Forever. So we should get Tony on to talk about this.
Yeah, 100%. We haven't done Army of Darkness on the pod.
No, we haven't.
So like we could get him on a full episode too if he wanted.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, we could. And then last but not least, for comic books, I picked, speaking of last week's or 2 weeks ago, the last episode we did, just you and I, we talked about Creepshow. I picked up Creepshow. I saw it while I was picking up the other books, and I was like, I'm just going to take a look at what's in here. And I noticed a couple names on here, Phil Hester and Eric Gapster, who both are SuperCon regulars. I know Phil always comes to SuperCon every single year. I might have just spoiled that he's coming back, but I mean, he's there every single year. But can't wait to talk to Phil about Creepshow. We should probably get him on to talk about Creepshow.
It would be cool. I have a couple of Creepshow issues. The last time we went to Rainbow together.
Do you have that one?
I don't think I have that one, but the last time we went to Rainbow together, I picked at least one, if not 2 up. I'm not sure. Yeah,
they're fun. They're a ton of fun.
Yeah. I love anthology comics, especially now that I don't really buy them like regularly anymore. It's nice to just be able to pick up an issue of Creepshow and be like, yeah, I've just got like 3 or 4 stories in here that I can read, and then the next time I'm in to pick up an issue, I can just pick that one up. So yeah, anthology comics rule.
All right, I have some Funko Pops to show off. Picked up both of these at GameStop. I forgot that they made these. These are from Scott Derrickson's The Black Phone.
Yes.
These are the grabber.
Yep.
With alternate masks. This is my favorite one.
Ooh, yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah.
God, I love that movie.
I did too, and I was super excited. I forgot that they were making these. Super excited to pick those up. Another Funko Pop, glows in the dark, I guess. I haven't figured out how to get him to glow in the dark yet. This is the Toxic Avenger.
Nice. Oh my God.
It's awesome. I love
that
it.
Rules.
These are at Target right now. They're like a
They're selling
Funko
toxic Avenger Funkos at Target.
at Target. Yeah,
Oh my god, that's awesome.
wild times we live in.
Wild times.
I've seen Toxie at Walmart before too. They sold the old school looking action figures
Yep, the
of
like
Toxie.
Super Sevens or whatever.
It's not Super 7. It is. I didn't buy it because I don't like those figures.
But it's like the similar style, right?
Yeah, but they're like super like cheap. It's all like
Yeah.
it's the same skinny body that they use on every figure, and they just pop a
Yeah.
different head on it. Yeah.
Yep.
I didn't pick that one up, but the Funko looks incredible. I loved it.
Yeah, that's rad.
All right, last but not least, in terms of things I picked up, you're gonna flip when you see this one.
Oh god.
Full Moon had their Valentine's Day sale, and it was 50% off everything. I finally pulled the trigger and got a replica of something.
Oh my god.
And again, it's going to relate to the show. I picked up the Gingerweed Man, Gingy.
My god.
He is incredible. He is so big. I'll back up.
Dude, that like what?
How cool is that?
That is insanely cool. Oh my god.
He's got his
love
little beanie on.
How much was that? It was in a half off sale?
Yeah, he was like 50.
That's oh my god.
Like he's got his little sandals on. Yeah, he's incredible. I love him so much.
Oh god.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Comes with a stand and like a certificate of authenticity and everything. Like, yeah, Full Moon does sales quite often. I think the next one's 4th of July, so
okay,
keep that in mind. And by then, I don't think we've talked about this on the show. By then, a certain movie called Bad CGI Gator will be out on Blu-ray.
Oh yeah,
featuring our interview with Danny Draven on that Blu-ray. How cool is that?
That's awesome. I'm so excited for that. I can't wait to pick that up. Bad CGI Gator was a lot of fun.
Yes. And one of their like most watched modern movies, I guess. It's
it was a pretty big hit.
Yeah.
It was a pretty big hit for them, which is cool.
Yeah, so that's the stuff I picked up.
That's awesome.
All right.
That's a great haul.
Yeah, it was a major haul that I got. Let's get into the movies then. First up, I'll save the like crossovers for last.
Sounds good.
I'll kick things off with I watched 2 movies. Speaking of our interviews that we've done, I'm a terrible host and finally watched 2 of the movies we've done interviews on. Just because by the time we got the screeners for them, one of them we didn't get a screener for, and the other we got like the day of the interview, which is fine. That's just how this goes when you do interviews with
and when you have a day job that's not.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we can't do Screams from the Basement stuff for 40 hours a week and get paid for it.
Not yet, people.
Not yet.
Please let us know if you'd like us to start a Patreon so you can help us do Screams from the Basement 40 hours a week. Please.
Or if you just like to pay us salaries just for doing this.
That too. We'll take sponsorships too. So I watched Terror Toons 4. I finally watched it. It's on Tubi right now. So if you're interested in that after listening to our interview, go watch it on Tubi. Ton of fun. We talked with special effects artist, writer, director Joe Castro. Incredible interview. Tons of great behind the scenes anecdotes on the movie. So go check that out. Go check the movie out on Tubi. Also watched Influencer, which was one of our first interviews we did. I think it might be our first Shudder one we did, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it was our first Shudder one because we used the same email that we used your Gmail for the screeners at Backlot.
Yeah.
And we were just using the same screener account.
We still use that same screener.
Yeah,
account.
we still use that same screener account.
Yeah.
But it clearly hadn't been like
updated.
Since we hadn't been active in it. Like, the screener didn't come through right, and it was a whole ordeal. So neither one of us had actually watched that movie when we interviewed Curtis. But we pulled it off. It was still a really good interview. We still found plenty to talk to him about.
Really good interview. Go watch this movie, people. Like, if I had watched this, and I probably should have before our end of the year, because I think it might have made my top 10. It is a tight thriller.
Yeah.
You do not expect where this movie is going, and the way it comes full circle from that first act to the final 5-10 minutes is
Yep.
beautiful. Loved it. Can't wait to see what else
And
Curtis does next.
it's one of those beautiful like title card gets dropped like 25 minutes into the movie type of things where it's just
Yeah, it's like you forget that you haven't seen the title card or credits yet. And when
yeah,
it drops, it's like, oh my god, what happened? Why?
yeah, wait, this is the movie? Like it's great. It's great. When a movie can pull that off really well, like it just it's automatically a positive review for me. Like, yeah, it's solid. Influencer
Uh,
rules.
Influencer does rule. Pulling up some other ones that I watched recently. I have a lot of stuff, so I'll try to be quick with some of them. Watched The Hunting in Connecticut for the first time. This is one Kayla's been trying to get me to watch for a while, just because I've never seen it. It's also like a pseudo Conjuring universe movie.
Yeah.
It's based on a Warren's case. Like they investigated it at some point. I mean, it's years
And
before.
it's got Scream King Kyle Gallner in it.
Scream King Kyle Gallner, who's the best part of this movie. I think he's so good in it.
He's really good, isn't he?
He's the best part of it. The movie's just, I mean, it's kind of what you expect from like the pre-Conjuring era of horror films, where it's just kind of PG-13 jump scares.
Yep. Oh, I love this as a preteen. I have never felt the need to come back and revisit it, just because like I kind of know what movie. I think I even knew back then what movie it was, but I just liked those a little bit better back then.
Yeah, if I had watched this in like middle school, high school, I would have been like, yeah, I love Haunting in Connecticut. And it's just I haven't seen, or I've seen so many other horror movies. It's like I've become desensitized to a lot of, especially supernatural stuff.
Yeah.
Kayla will even say so. I think she's listening right now. Like I don't get scared at anything anymore.
Yeah,
it takes become desensitized to it all.
It takes something like visceral, like
yeah,
a Hell House movie to get me to like, you know, genuinely get rattled. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Haunting in Connecticut. I mean, if people have seen it, everybody knows about that movie. It's just it finally got around to watching it. Another movie I finally got around to watching for the first time ever. David Cronenberg's Videodrome.
I still haven't seen this one.
You should watch it.
I saw it got added to Shudder.
Yeah, it's on Shudder right now. My first time watching it. It's what I expected and not what I expected at the same time. It's total Cronenberg. You have James Woods as the lead. Here's the thing. James Woods might be like a terrible human being.
He's a good actor.
He's such a good actor.
He's such
a good leading man.
I can't argue with that.
He's not. I don't think he's handsome. I don't think he's funny. Like he's not a traditional leading man at all. But anytime he's the lead in something, I'm like, I'm with this character. I'm with you. I want to watch. I can't take my eyes off what you're doing. And that's Videodrome too. Of like, he's such a perfect main character for this movie. Long live the new flesh. That's all I got to say. 4 stars. I love Videodrome.
Hell yeah.
A new release from last year, 2023. This movie's called Natty Knox, which is I think I watched it on Tubi, if I'm not mistaken. The movie stars Danielle Harris, Bill Moseley, Robert Englund. They're all in this movie.
Oh damn!
Dwight Little directed this, who worked with Danielle on Halloween 4, which is one of my favorite Halloween movies. So it's kind of like a nice return for both of them. This movie takes place around Halloween as well.
Oh, nice.
It's about like the myth of Natty Knox, who was this like scream queen actress who, by the time she aged out of those type of roles, moved to this town and basically ran a brothel out of her house. And now these kids play this game called Natty Knox, and they play it around. It's like a Halloween prank type of scare. And basically, like, there's like twists and turns of like, is she still dead? Is she alive? She had a son, but did that son die when people thought he died? No, maybe not. And it like has all these. So what I wrote in my letterbox was, if you take Halloween, Goosebumps, Don't Breathe, and Darkness Falls, and you put them into a blender, that's Natty Knox. And if people know my sensibilities in movies, that's like the perfect recipe for me to really like something.
I'm not gonna lie, that sounds pretty intriguing to me.
Yeah. Especially we got to do a Darkness Falls episode. I love that movie
absolutely.
so much. I love it, and this movie has some Darkness Falls vibes to it. So, yeah, dude, I think it's a ton of fun. It's a low budget, straight to video type of movie. Something you would expect like in the 90s to be straight to video. But yeah, you get those names that pop up. Bill Moseley is a big part of this movie. Danielle Harris plays like the mom of the kids. So like graduating to like now playing the mother of our leads. Robert is just kind of, you can tell he was probably there for a day or two, which is fine, but it's Robert Englund. It's Freddy Krueger. Like you can't go wrong having Robert in a movie.
Yep, that's rad. And I'm so glad that you like Darkness Falls. I don't know if we've ever talked about that movie.
Probably not. I love that movie, yeah.
It's so funny, that movie, I got it because it was in a 2-pack randomly with Christine. And it was the only thing at FYE, like it was the only copy of Christine that FYE had when I was growing up. And so I literally bought the 2-pack. It was Christine and Darkness Falls, 2 Sony. It was like 2 Columbia horror movies, right? And it was just 2 random ones that they threw together. So random. And I remember watching Darkness Falls and like that opening sequence scaring the living shit out of me. And I do. Yeah. I love that movie. There's a big nostalgia bump for it for sure, but like I genuinely dig it. It's good.
Yeah. That was one of those like middle school movies where a friend told me about it, and he's like, Darkness Falls, Killer Tooth Fairy movie. We have to watch it. And we watched it. And yeah, it was like, oh my God, Killer Tooth Fairy movie. Oh.
Yeah. I was glad I had lost all of my teeth by the time that I watched that one. Cause
we revisited we're going to do an episode on it. We're not going to get in Darkness Falls for it. The question I'm going to leave people off with before I move on to my next movie. Tell us what movie we should double feature Darkness Falls with.
Yeah.
Because we'll do it this year. That'll be on our 2024 list. We'll do a Darkness Falls episode.
Yes, for sure.
Last couple things. We have I think we only have one crossover. And I'll save that one for last, and we can talk about it.
We have 2. You just forgot to put one on.
Yeah, I didn't put it on there. We'll talk about those last. I'm going to bring up a 1990s comedy. I know we're a horror podcast. I have to bring it up.
That's okay.
I watched Pauly Shore's Jury Duty. And I know, listeners, you're probably like, why the hell are you bringing up Pauly Shore's 1994 classic Jury Duty? Because the last act of this movie becomes a slasher movie. It is about a killer who's going after Pauly Shore and Tia Carrere. That's all I'll leave it at. It becomes a slasher movie by the end of it. Jury Duty rules. Pauly Shore's run of 90s comedies is unmatched by anyone else.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Last couple things. Okay, so here's the big one before we get to our crossovers. I watched all the Paranormal Activity movies.
That's a lot of Paranormal Activity.
That is a lot of Paranormal Activity movies. So with, I think like Kayla wanted to watch them. I mean, supernatural ghost movies that's 100% Kayla's foray into horror. I like them a lot, and found footage is my jam. Doing the Hell House interview, I was like, I'm in a found footage mood. I want to watch some found footage. So we watched all the Paranormal Activities. I only watched like the last like 10 to 15 minutes of Paranormal Activity 3.
Yeah.
Because we literally just watched it a few months ago. Anyway, Paranormal.
It's the best one.
It's the best one. That's the one I constantly that's the one we'll rewatch.
Yeah.
So rewatching all of these, and we watched them in order. There's a clear trend of where this series starts to take a dip.
Yep.
So the first movie, I mean, everybody knows about it. It's a game changer, 100%. Yep. Do I think it's a perfect movie? No. Do I think it's the Blair Witch Project? No. But do I think it's a fun found footage movie that sets the trend for the next decade plus? 100%.
Yep.
Paranormal Activity 2, I like better than I don't know if I like better than the first one. I think it's right on
Really?
par. It might be better than the first one. I don't know. I like it a lot. I think it does a lot of what the first movie does. I don't know if I necessarily find Mika and Katie annoying, but I
Yeah.
kind of find Mika and Katie annoying.
I
And the second movie doesn't have them in it. I mean, they're in it, but they're not the main characters of it.
My only issue with the second one is I feel like less happens in it. I don't know. I think that
Yeah,
1 and
I can
2 are
see that.
pretty on par with each other, but I do think like 1 for me gets the slight edge up. I
I
really
think
like the first one.
the reason the second one might get the slight edge to me, I don't know. They're pretty close. I think I gave them both 3.5.
Yeah, that's about where I'd be with
Yeah.
them too. Yeah.
Is I love the use of the home cameras where you don't just have Mika
Yeah.
on the camcorder recording everything. You have the actual like security footage.
Yeah, the security footage stuff is a really nice addition to the
Yeah.
like scope of it. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
The series makes no sense. So at the end of
Yeah.
this one, Katie takes her nephew.
Yep.
And we don't pick up on that until the fourth one. I won't talk about the third one. I talked about that a couple months ago on the podcast. It's the best one. Go watch that one. Fourth one is where this series starts to fall apart.
Yeah, because they did the Xbox Connect thing.
It's the Xbox Connect one. You get Catherine Newton, I believe in her first movie.
Didn't even realize that was her. Like, I know that one's like, I didn't like it when I watched it, but you telling me that Catherine Newton's the lead and me not realizing that, like, now I kind of have to revisit this.
Yeah. I think it's not good. It's not the worst one, but it's not. It's where you see this series of like, we're just trying to figure this out as we're going.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make any sense. I still don't understand. One, like Toby is the name of the main ghost. How unscary of a name of your main antagonist to be called Toby.
Did I ever tell you about seeing 3 in a theater?
No.
So I went opening night with a whole big group of people to Paranormal Activity 3, right? And we filled up almost 2 whole rows of this theater. But there were 2 seats. Like I was sitting on the end with 2 empty seats next to me. And this couple sits down next to me, right? Not a big deal. The whole theater's very responsive, being very vocal in the movie, you know, like it was a ride. But this guy who was sitting next to me, instead of like saying anything to his girlfriend throughout the entire movie, was like leaning in closer to me, like tapping my shoulder and be like, "Oh man, it's Toby." I don't know this guy. I've never met him. Like, I couldn't tell you this man's name. We didn't say anything after the movie. He just got up and left with his girlfriend, who was clearly so pissed because he spent the entire movie engaging with me.
Was he like making fun of it or like, oh
No,
my God, I'm scared.
It was genuine.
I'm not gonna react to my girlfriend and tell her I'm scared. I'm gonna react to this dude next to me. And
yeah, it was insane. It's one of my favorite theater experiences ever. I can't watch that movie without feeling like the tap on my shoulder and just, oh man, it's Toby.
Toby. What an unscary name though.
Oh, it is. It's a terrible name for a demon. Terrible name for a demon.
I don't understand what Toby's. Someone correct us. What is Toby's deal? Like, what does he want? I don't understand. I watched all these movies. We watched them back to back to back to back to back. I don't know what he wants because he wins at the end of every movie. There's no happy ending in Paranormal Activity.
Yeah,
somehow there's
badly.
Like 7 of them.
Yeah.
Paranormal Activity, the marked ones. I liked it more this time watching it than the last time. I still think it falls into the gimmick trap that 4 set up of 4 uses the Connect. This one uses the Simon like memory.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are we doing? The Connect thing is a good idea that just doesn't get used to its fullest extent
and it instantly dates the 4th one. it dates the fourth
I
one so
I don't
much.
hate that because I think all of these movies are dated.
Yeah, they're fairly dated. That's true. It's hard not to date a found footage
Yes.
movie just because like the tool for a found footage movie is whatever equipment is available at that specific time. But yeah.
Yeah, but it does. But then, like the Simon Memory Game is not of 2015. That's like
Yeah,
like
which
early
is
2000s,
strange.
90s, maybe 80s toy.
They were just trying to hop
I
on
don't
that
know.
nostalgia train, I guess. I don't
I
know.
guess
Yeah.
of the Simon Memory
Chris
Game.
Landon was like, "Hey, remember this toy I used to have when I was a kid? That'd be creepy to put in a movie."
Yeah, and it's not. It's just not creepy. I
Yeah.
think it does a decent job of like working in the lore. I guess I don't know. The
Yeah.
lore doesn't make any sense in these movies, especially when you get to this one, Ghost Dimension, the worst one.
Yeah.
I've always thought it's the worst one. It is so bad. It is unwatchably bad.
I don't think I've ever finished this one, if I'm being honest. I've
it
finished
is.
every other single one. I don't think I finished Ghost Dimension.
It's the one most connected to the best three, where it takes the plot of this movie is that this family who lives in this immaculate house, like 10-bedroom house, 2 or 3 stories, huge house, lots of money, pool in the backyard. Where this house was built on the same grounds where the house from 3 once stood.
Okay.
And in the attic, they find the camera that the stepdad, I think he is, in the third movie uses. But now it has magical abilities where it can see into the ghost dimension.
Oh, jeez.
And Toby is like this poop blob where you see him on the camera.
Oh, God.
It's so bad. It is atrocious. It is an awful movie. Don't watch it. Or watch it. Maybe like watch it and just laugh at it. I don't know. It's awful.
Did you watch Next of Kin though?
And yeah, and then we finished it with Next of Kin. This is the second time watching it. I love this one. I
still haven't seen this is one I haven't even started this one. I just need to actually watch this one.
You'll love this one. This one's a ton of fun. Again, I don't know how it connects to the rest of the series. I don't care. It's a ton of fun. It totally breaks the rules of found footage in the third act, where it's like, no one's holding that camera. I don't care. It's a ton of fun. Go watch it.
Cool.
All right. Enough of Paranormal Activity. Last 2 things, 2 new movies that are crossovers with you. We both watched Here for Blood, which is the Screambox original. It's the last movie I watched on Screambox before I unfortunately just canceled that service because I've only ever watched 2 movies on there, and
one of them was The Outwaters, correct?
One of them was Outwaters, and that came out a year ago.
I love Screambox.
Yeah, I just didn't watch it.
I get it.
If they have another original movie where it's like, all right, I'll sign up and watch that type of thing. Here for Blood is a movie that should be right up my alley. I didn't like this movie very much. It is about a independent professional wrestler played by this guy was in the X-Men movies. He was Colossus, right? In the OG.
No, he was the
Colossus?
Oh, maybe he was. I thought he was the fire guy.
No, he's not the fire guy, because the fire guy's in the Deadpool movie coming out and does not look like this guy.
That's right. Okay.
I swear he's the body for Colossus.
Maybe he's the body for Colossus, yeah.
Because Colossus doesn't do anything in the first.
Yeah, I think I'm thinking of the fire guy being in the new Deadpool movie. Never mind.
Anyway, this guy plays a professional. He's a professional wrestler who ends up babysitting for his girlfriend who's in college, who can't babysit because she has to study for a big test.
I like this one a lot. It was like the pacifier meets the babysitter, but like with, I don't know, a wrestler and gory death. This movie has a bit of an identity crisis where it maybe tries to be a few too many things than what it probably should, and because of that it starts feeling long. Like, I think that if this movie was 20 minutes shorter, if it was like an 80-minute movie, this would be like an instant, like I like this movie a lot. but I
there,
think I would have loved it at 80
there's
minutes.
a point. Yeah, there's a point where a reveal happens, and there's still like 25 minutes of movie afterwards, where it almost
Yeah.
becomes like Friday the 13th Part 3, where people are going in and out of a barn. It's like, all right,
Yeah.
we're in the third act of this movie. Let's get going.
Like let's keep up the pace. Yeah.
I didn't hate this movie by any means. If people are interested and want to check this movie out,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely go watch it. But again, I wish I loved it more, because it feels like a movie tailor made for me, where it's a professional
Yeah.
wrestler as the lead in this horror comedy
It's
with
splatter comedy,
tons of splatter,
like
blood splatter in this movie.
great practical effects. Great practical effects work.
Fun practical effects.
Okay, yes.
They're over
Fun
the
practical
top.
effects.
Yeah.
It's very much like the gore is played for laughs. I definitely had a very good time with this movie. It's not going to be to everybody's taste for sure.
Yeah.
But if you like splatter comedies, like this is one that I think is definitely worth the time to seek out. It's definitely worth it, at least a month of Screambox. I like Screambox quite a bit. So
It
yeah.
does. It commits the cardinal sin of wrestlers portrayed in movies for me, though, where someone does an elbow drop and does the.
Yeah.
I have never seen anyone ever do that in an actual professional wrestling match, where they like double tap their elbow and do like just a standing to the ground elbow drop. I've never seen anyone do that, and movies do it all the time. I don't understand it.
That's fair.
Minor nitpick that no one's going to give a shit about, but all
That's
right,
what the listeners come here for, man.
Last but not least, Sam's number one horror film come the end of 2024.
Yeah, I'm just going to be honest. Yep, Lisa Frankenstein. We both saw it. Man, I love this movie. It could not there will not be another movie this year that is as Sam lens of a movie as Lisa Frankenstein is. It combines all of my favorite things. It's a Frankenstein movie. It's a teen comedy. It's got a banger, like, new wave 80s soundtrack. It's got two incredible lead performances. I think Catherine Newton is so freaking funny in this movie. Cole Sprouse is incredible in a largely wordless performance. You've got like Carla Gugino and the dad, Mike's. Oh God, she's so good in this movie. She's like, she is chewing the scenery so ferociously that it's just like you can see the teeth marks in the background. Like it's nuts. Mike's dad from Stranger Things is playing Mike's dad from Stranger Things. This guy is just he is just the quintessential 80s dad. Aloof dad that's just like behind his newspaper going, sure, while all this crazy stuff's happening.
Yeah, it's Ferris's dad. Yeah.
Yeah. I love Liza Soberano is Lisa's stepsister Taffy. And I just think she's got some of the best line deliveries in this entire movie. There's a scene where she's describing a missing person over the phone to the police, and the whole exchange had me in stitches. Like it's just funny. It's so good. And since this is newer and it just hit paid VOD, like I don't want to spoil it in doobie doing. I do think this movie would be worth eventually doing an episode on, like double featuring it with something. We'll
eventually do a Jennifer's Body and Lisa Frankenstein.
Yeah, we should episode. Because
I get it.
Yeah. Or a Heather's. Honestly, like a Heather's Lisa Frankenstein one. That would be awesome because it's definitely more like the dark comedies of the late 80s than I'd say like an outright horror movie. Like it's definitely a dark rom-com with some horror elements sprinkled in it.
It's like Heather's and Edward Scissorhands came together.
Exactly. And it's a pure vibe movie, and I
mixed with a little like Frankenweenie in there as well.
Yeah, for sure. Like the color palette, like the set design, everything about this movie is just very much like, Diablo Cody, do you just have a key directly to my heart? Like, what is this? she still hasn't written anything that I haven't fallen in love with. So horror or otherwise, I love Diablo Cody's writing. I think this is one of her best, honestly. I think this is better than Jennifer's Body. And I'm guessing from your Letterboxd review, you do too. Just from your
What's that? What?
that Lisa Frankenstein is better than Jennifer's Body.
You know how I feel about Jennifer's Body.
I know.
This is miles better than Jennifer's Body. I like Lisa Frankenstein a lot. I think I gave it like a 3.5. Jennifer's Body is not that.
Which is probably what most normal people are going to get. I don't get giving it a negative review. I really don't.
No. Well, yeah, I do. I get that. I get why people do, but who cares?
I don't know. Yeah.
Who cares?
I vibe with this movie start to finish. Yeah. It's so much fun.
Yeah, the two leads in this are incredible. If anything, if you fall in between somewhere in the middle of me and Sam on your thoughts on like Diablo Cody movies, go watch it for the two leads. They're incredible.
Yep.
Cole Sprouse and Catherine Newton, perfect chemistry, so good together, super funny, super charming, romantic. It's 10 out of 10 on their performances. They're awesome in this.
Hell yeah. Oh God, I love it. The ending is also so like literally and figuratively ballsy. And I'll just let y'all watch it and figure out what I mean by that.
All right, okay. Sam, that's all I got. I only took an hour to get through my doobie doing. What do you got?
So aside from those two, it was Valentine's Day. I had to watch one of my favorite slashers of all time again. I watched the 1981 My Bloody Valentine. I pulled out my Scream Factory uncut disc. It's the only way to watch it. It's the only way to watch it. And it's just, this movie's fucking perfect. I love My Bloody Valentine.
It might be the greatest slasher movie of all time.
It's up there. It's one of them. It might be top 3 for me, honestly. It's up there with like Halloween and Black Christmas, which to me are like 2 gold standard ones. I feel like it fits right up there with those, you know?
In terms of like what you think of like a traditional slasher and what you go for, I can't think of anything that tops My Bloody Valentine.
Yeah.
I just can't. I don't think it's better. I don't think it's better than like Halloween or Black Christmas, but it's
right.
It's so. I mean, it's so good. Yeah, it's incredible.
It's almost like a perfection of the template in a sense. Like, yeah. So yeah, My Bloody Valentine from 1981. I like the remake too, but the 80s one is the route to go. Yeah. So if any of our listeners have not seen that one, I highly suggest finding the uncut version. Because there's a lot of gore that got put back into that.
They literally kill a guy. I don't know how they pull off one of the shots in it. I think they actually just killed the guy.
Yeah.
It's one with the swinging, like the door opening and where the
pickaxe comes up through.
They killed that guy. They killed the guy. He's dead.
Oh, it's nuts. It's gnarly.
Yeah.
There's a dryer, like a laundry dryer death that's just disgusting, and you just don't get the full effect of it without the uncut version. So
there's a shower head one too.
Yeah. Oh God, the shower head's insane. Yeah, My Bloody Valentine rules.
Guy like falls down. There's like a body that like falls down one of the mine shafts too.
But there's the rope around his neck. And when it goes taut, it just pulls his head right off.
Yeah.
It's the sickest thing ever. Like, it's disgusting. It's speaking of disgusting. I've continued a little bit of my Clive Barker madness from the last episode. I watched Hellbound Hellraiser 2.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm one of the people that likes this one more than Hellraiser. I think Hellraiser's a better movie. But this one is wild. This one has like some of the coolest world building in any horror movie I've ever seen. Whereas like the first Hellraiser takes place mostly in the real world. Like this is almost entirely set in the realm of the Cenobites.
Mm-hmm.
And it's gnarly. You get more Julia Cotton. She's front and center as the villain. I wish that I feel like they dispose of her character too early in this. I would have liked for her to have been in the final like 20 minutes of this more, But that's a nitpick just because I love Julia Cotton and Claire Higgins' performance in this role. But yeah, Hellbound is so good. I love everything with Pinhead. His whole origin story, the way that's used with him. You've seen this one, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah, I thought so.
I'm one of those people that likes Hellraiser too, more than the first one.
Do you? Yeah, I totally get it.
I don't know if it's better. I don't know if it's better, but I that's the one I would rather put on.
I get that. I really do. I think I'd still rather the first one, but
I'm excited for you to get to Hellraiser 3 because I feel like that movie's gonna be totally up your alley.
I'm excited. I know that like this is not known for being a franchise with a lot of great sequels, but I am kind of excited to work my way through this franchise. However long that takes. I can't binge in like 2 weeks like you can. I just can't do it.
I don't know if I could do that with the Hellraiser movie.
Even in a series I really like the Friday the 13th series, where it's just like I can't. If I watch 2 or 3 in a row, I have to take a break for a little bit.
If I'm 2 or 3 in, I'm like, I gotta just finish this now.
Oh geez, yeah, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. I was pushing my limits with our Children of the Corn trilogy.
Watching those three, I was like, I gotta watch the rest of these.
Oh yeah, see, I did not have that feeling. I was like, I can take a break from Children of the Corn now.
Yeah, but that's we talked about that on our like horror origins. That was like my need a binge them.
Yeah, and I've never been that way. I've been watching a lot of Pluto TV, and so I've been coming in and out of a lot of movies. I only wanted to I just wanted to bring up 2 that also I watched Night of the Comet. It was on the Cult Films. I love that movie. It's on Pluto TV right now. If you haven't seen Night of the Comet, it is really underseen. Wonderful, goofy little sci-fi like zombie post-apocalyptic flick with Kelly Maroney. Friend of the show, Kelly Maroney. We can say that now. Yeah. That's such a cool thing to be able to say. So yeah, check out Night of the Comet on Pluto TV because it's incredible. I watched Wishmaster for the first time. Have you seen this one yet?
No, I picked up all 4 on Blu-ray from I think the Scream Factory has all 4. Anyway, I haven't dove into them yet. No.
I think you'll dig it. It's a very great practical effects 90s like horror fantasy. Mm-hmm. It's essentially like it's about jinns, evil genies, and it's a little bit of like a monkey's paw, be careful what you wish for type of story, which those, full disclosure, are just not typically my type of thing. So they always kind of have to do a little extra to get like really good favor for me. But I actually really liked Wishmaster, so if that says anything.
Okay. I like a lot of stories. Yeah.
Okay, so you'll probably dig this quite a bit. And it's got some gnarly practical effects. There's like a pre-credit sequence that's like telling the origin of the jinn that's like terrorizing the people in present day, and there's just like some wild practical effects happening, like things growing out of people, and just like it's pretty gnarly and nuts. Like I said, tons of cameos from like horror icons. It feels like every scene there's like oh my god, they got this person for this movie, Kane Hodder has kind of a fun little like cameo in it, and like just tons of stuff like that. So
I'm excited to finally watch it. Speaking of friends of the show, friend of the show Andy Heller over at Fat Dude Digs Flick, not a fan of this.
Not a fan.
I remember telling him I saw his review for Wishmaster. I'm like, that makes me more excited to watch this movie.
Casey,
I think he gave it like half a star or something.
He did. He gave it the turd emoji.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Casey, I gave this 3 stars.
Is this I don't know if movie?
I don't know if you'll give it more than 3 stars, but I do have a feeling that you will really like this movie.
All right, I will try to watch it before our next episode. Then.
Yeah, I don't know. You might dig this one quite a bit. Another one that I watched on Pluto TV. I mean, I feel like I've talked about Texas Chainsaw 3D on this show, so I didn't put it in the show notes. I did, full disclosure, watch Texas Chainsaw 3D with a big cheesy grin on my face the whole time. Fucking love that movie. Underrated within the Texas Chainsaw franchise. I really love it. It's stupid. It's dumb. It hits it hits the giddy slasher button for me. I'm just like, this is so stupid that I have fun with it.
You're the only person I think in the entire world that owns a T-shirt that says "Do your thing," cuz.
I love that shirt. I love that shirt. I love that line. It fills me with so much joy. My lizard brain just fireworks come out of it when I hear that line.
Can I tell my funny story of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3D? I don't know if I've ever told it to you.
I don't think you have.
So again, 2013, I was a senior it was senior year of high school. And I remember there was a website I could get to on our school laptops that had free movies. It might have been just something really generic of like freemovies.com or something like that. But you could watch movies that were still in theaters. Most of them were shitty, like someone using their cell phone to film the screen. But sometimes you'd get like leaks from the actual theaters and stuff. Anyway, I was in I think it was like woodworking class. And I remember I took it because I really liked the teacher. He was super cool. It was also just super easy. And I was like, I just need to fill in another time. But the thing was, like, I couldn't get credit for the class because I took it too many times already.
Oh, gotcha.
Like I couldn't have another it was a weird thing. I couldn't like have another. I just needed to have an actual class, but I was like, I had enough credits. I'm just going to take this again because it's fun. But there was times where I was like, I don't want to do anything woodworking because I don't want to.
And you didn't need the credits, so why would you care?
Exactly. And so me and my buddy Cole would hang out in the classroom while everybody else was like in the woodworking shop, and we would watch movies. And I remember over like a 2 or 3 day period, we watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3D in this woodworking class. And we were just questioning the entire time, when does this movie take place?
Yeah.
How old are these characters?
It's weird.
It was before I was like obsessed with like Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 especially.
Yeah.
But it was just, I didn't like the movie back then. I watched it because it was still in theaters and we could watch it for free. And we watched it during school.
That's awesome. Oh God, yeah. So that's the thing. This movie is like, it's a mess because I think what the original plan was, like, the filmmakers were setting it in the 90s, which would make sense because then Alexandria Daddario's character would be the
20
correct
years
age.
later. Yeah.
Right. But the Weinsteins, I think, were part of this, or maybe this wasn't a Weinstein one.
I don't. It's a Lionsgate.
No, it's a Lionsgate one. So no, it's not Weinstein.
Is it a Platinum Dunes I don't know.
No, I think this is after Platinum Dunes because they just did the two like early 2000s one. Yeah. But so what I've heard is that they originally went to set it in the 90s, but Paranormal Activity had become a big hit. And they wanted a found footage sequence in the movie shot on a smartphone. And then people were like, but we set it in the 90s. And the producer was like, no one's going to give a shit. I'm like,
you could have someone bring like a camcorder? Like,
right?
Know what I'm still waiting for? I want to found, like, I know there was rumors. We're way off topic now, but
we are. That's okay.
That's okay. We're at the end of the show. If people wanted to shut off, they would have shut it off already. But what I still want, and they could have done it with this Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3D, and I think it would have been a ton of fun. And I know they've talked about it for the longest time with Friday the 13th. Where's a found footage slasher movie?
Yeah. Because the closest thing we have is like the Leslie Vernon movie.
Yeah.
And that
That's more
isn't really.
mockumentary.
Yeah, that's not really a found footage.
I think the closest thing we've ever gotten to a found footage slasher movie is Halloween Resurrection.
Ugh, yeah, but
And that's not very good.
I was about to say, is it too much to ask for a better found footage
No,
slasher?
it's not too much to ask for, but I think there's obviously elements of it in that movie. But yeah, it's kind of surprising that no one's done like a straight up slasher and you give all these teens a camera and they each have a camera.
Yeah. Well, especially nowadays with cell phones, like
Mm-hmm.
literally writes itself.
It does. Anyway, what else you got?
I've got one more that
Okay.
I watched also on Pluto TV. One that I've kind of been wanting to watch for a while. It's one of the few Dark Castle remakes that I had not seen yet. I watched Jan de Bont's 1999 remake of The Haunting, which is based on The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. It's got Liam Neeson, Owen Wilson, Catherine Zeta-Jones, and I'm forgetting the actress who plays Nell is someone.
Sure.
God dang it.
Remind me while you look that up. Is this the movie where like the faces come to life in the house?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I remember my cousin
Lily Taylor. She's the
Okay.
mom in The Conjuring. Is Nell in this? Yeah.
I remember in like elementary school, my cousin would come hang out at my house between school and going to work, and he'd come hang out for like an hour to kill time. And he was watching TV one day, and it was this.
Oh,
and he's
okay.
like, "You can't watch this. This is a scary movie." So it was like hiding behind the couch type of thing, watching this movie. But yeah, I remember like faces coming out of the wall and stuff.
Yeah. It's got some dated CGI effects, like most of these Dark Castle remakes, but I actually had quite a bit of fun with this one. I love the 1963 movie. I think it's so moody and atmospheric. And it's such a good adaptation of Shirley Jackson's book, which is just a book I love. This one is a little bit looser in the adaptation, especially when you get into the third act and you find out what Nell's connected to the house. For my money, the best version of the story is still Mike Flanagan's Hill House series on Netflix. It's perfect.
Yeah.
But this one, Jan de Bont, the guy who did Speed, doing a 1999 remake of this or a readaptation of it. I'm like, yeah, this is about what I would expect from it. And I had fun with it. Owen Wilson is super goofy. Catherine Zeta-Jones is like, all these performances are kind of weird and off kilter. And I don't necessarily know if any of them work in congruence with each other. Like, it seems like everybody's kind of in a different movie. But I don't know. I was won over by the charm.
That sounds like those Dark Castle movies.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing that you can say about every Dark Castle movie is true for this. The production design and like the production value of it is just incredible. Like, Hill House looks awesome in this movie. There's not a single set in this movie that doesn't look incredible. And it changes the ending enough to where it's not as impactful as like the book, as the 63 movie, as Flanagan's series. Like, it doesn't hit you in the feels, or like it's not as big of a gut punch, but it's also definitely more of a popcorn horror take on it. So I didn't mind that as much. I actually thought it was kind of underrated. I don't think it deserves a lot of the hate that that's been slung at it over the years. I feel that way about most of the Dark Castle movies, though. So take my word with a grain of salt, I guess.
How many of the Dark Castle movies are there? There's The Haunting.
There's 13 Ghosts.
House on Haunted Hill, 13 Ghosts.
Yep.
House of Wax.
House of Wax, Ghost Ship.
And Ghost Ship.
Yeah.
So
and then they did like Gothica, but that's not a remake of anything.
So I'm just saying, we have 3 episodes there of double features we can do.
Yeah, and I love those movies. I really do.
I like some of them, but it's like there's enough to talk about in each where I'm
Yeah.
like, I would love to rewatch them.
Yeah, I guess I shouldn't say I love all of them.
are
They're just like they're a vibe, and they all have something to latch on to.
yes, they're
Yeah.
all super rewatchable, even if I don't love them.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Like
They're
13
good, like
Ghosts,
Saturday afternoon
yeah.
kind of movies.
I think 13 Ghosts is a bad movie, but it's like I could put that on right now and just have fun,
Yeah,
fun watching it.
and it's mostly because of like Matthew Lillard and Tony
he's
Shalhoub and
incredible.
these like
Tony
weird
Shalhoub is-
performances.
We'll talk. We'll do a couple dark casts.
Maybe it's a bad idea to do Doobie Doing at the end of the show because we go wildly off the rails.
No, I love this. I think that
I actually love this too. This was a great format.
Yeah, I love this change. Please, if you're out there listening, and we had some people listening along live, let us know your thoughts on the format change. Do you like this format where we do be doing at the end and it's a little I guess looser and we can kind of just talk about whatever. Speaking of people watching live, I'm going to hit some of these comments since we didn't do so. As we were going along. Shout out John Runyon, who is the host of Comics by Night. Screams from the basement for the win. Thanks, John. Throwing out another one here. Matt is asking, is jury duty? So jury duty is like Sunshine, like the movie Sunshine.
Hey, it turns into a slasher at the end.
Yeah, but this one's better. Sunshine didn't have Pauly Shore.
Sunshine just had Cillian Murphy.
Yeah, but that's not Pauly Shore.
Pluto has some gems. Pluto does have some gems.
Pluto does have some gems.
I have loved Pluto recently.
Chandra commenting here, I wish I was half as cool as the girl. Same. Like,
yeah.
She is legitimately
also,
the coolest.
You're listening to this podcast. You are as cool as the girl.
And you actually know who the girl is, so that's cool.
Yeah.
Last but not least, my wife commenting here, who's the hottie with flesh?
Oh, thanks, Kayla. I appreciate that.
I don't understand that. Is that I don't know what that means. Tell me later.
I don't either.
Was that when I was talking about like the new flesh from like Videodrome?
I don't think so. I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm terrible at keeping up with comments.
So. Yeah, they were coming in pretty fast as we were going along here. So thank you all for commenting along with us. Sam, let's wrap things up then on this episode. Where can they find this podcast and where can they follow us online?
You can find us pretty much anywhere you get podcasts: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Google isn't a thing anymore, I guess. I don't know. Whatever.
I don't know. I should probably update our little graphic on the bottom there.
Yeah, sure. You know?
I don't know. I guess it's gone. I don't know.
We are, if you want to follow us on social media, we do tend to announce our topics beforehand. So if you want to know what we're going to be talking about on a week-to-week basis, so that you know what to prep and what to listen for, we are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Once again, we've kind of fallen off TikTok a little bit. I'm going to get back on that.
Yeah.
We like doing TikToks. We're just not as consistent yet as I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
We fall on and off of that. I like TikTok. I'm just still learning it. So
yeah. Well, we're getting the hang of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Some recent episodes that you guys can listen to. You can go back and listen to our interview with Joe Bandelli, the producer of the Hell House LLC series. So go check that out. That is up on our channel right now, as well as all of our other interviews. And we talked about most of them on this podcast already. So kind of a fun, maybe a little Saturday afternoon binge if you need to listen to or watch some interviews that we've done. We will be announcing our schedule coming up. I might just do it now because by the time this episode drops, we'll have dropped it on social media. So episodes you can look forward to in the month of March. This is our March schedule. This one drops March 1st. This is our vampire double feature, Dracula's Daughter, and A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. Next week, so next Friday, March 8th, we have an interview with writer-director Anthony Cousins talking about his new found footage movie, Frogman.
Yeah. What a fun interview. This movie looks awesome. We have not seen Frogman yet, but we're very excited for it. So
yeah. The week after March 15th, we're talking talking some St. Patty's Day stuff, as it's going to be St. Patty's Day weekend. We're talking Leprechaun in the Hood and Leprechaun Back to the Hood.
Leprechaun Back to the Hood, the first horror movie I ever watched.
Yes, where I'm sure we'll hear that story on this episode. Leprechaun double feature there. March, what is this? March 22nd, interview we just recorded last night, actually. We're talking Terrorphilia, Circle of Six, with the one, the only Scream King, William Butler, Billy Butler. You've seen him in like Ghoulies 2, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, the remake of Nightmare Before Christmas. Not Nightmare Before Night of the Living Dead.
And
he's directed
Friday the
countless
13th
movies.
7.
Yes.
Yeah.
Directed countless movies, co-creator of The Ginger Dead Man, like so many different things. Awesome interview and chat with William Butler about his new graphic novel.
Yeah.
All right. And last but not least, we're going to wrap up the month with our Good Friday episode. We're talking Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter and the Velocipaster.
And we'll have a special guest on that one too.
We will.
It'll be fun.
We are bookending the month with lesbian vampires. That's all we'll say.
Yes, we are.
All right, Sam, do you got anything else before we wrap up this episode?
No, man, just like everybody be good people. When it starts snowing, just take it slow and don't drive like an idiot. I'm not saying that for any reason at all. I didn't have a stressful commute on the way home because people don't know how to drive in the snow.
Because people forgot, because one day it was 70 degrees and then it was 10 degrees the next day. Like, I forgot how to drive. Yes. Well, hey, one thing you can do if you are one of those crazy drivers, listen to this podcast and listen to us every single week, dropping every Friday. Thank you all for listening. And until next time.
Thanks for tuning in. And sweet screams.
You're listening to the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, home to hundreds of hours of free podcast entertainment. The shows on this network all have a common goal, providing you with the best discussions about movies and other forms of entertainment media. The PFPN hopes to fill your earholes with audio joy. Visit our website with links to all the other amazing shows at www.thepfpn.com. Thanks for listening.